Well, Europe's immigration debate has entered yet another sensitive chapter. This time, the focus is on Denmark. Ladies and gentlemen, the Danish government is once again considering a nationwide ban on the Islamic call to prayers. Well, commonly it is known as azan. Supporters argue that proposal is aimed at protecting Denmark's cultural identity, while critics they say that it targets only one religion and it raises serious concern about religious freedom here. The whole proposal it has sparked intense debate across Europe, by the way. Denmark's immigration minister says that the public space it should reflect Danish traditions and values. Here the government believes immigration policies should encourage stronger cultural integration rather than visible religious separation here. However, let me tell you here, Muslim organizations strongly disagree. They argue that freedom of religion is protected under Denmark's constitution and that banning the azan it would unfairly single out one faith here. In fact, legal experts also pointed out that any nationwide ban it is likely to face constitutional challenges further. You know what? This particular decision and discussion it comes at a time when several European countries are tightening the immigration policies. In fact, across parts of Europe, debates over integration, religious identity, and migration it have become increasingly political, with governments introducing stricter rules on immigration and public religious practices. In the meantime, supporters they say that these measures protect national identity, but critics argue that they risk increasing social division. The outcome of Denmark's proposal it could influence similar debates across Europe in the coming years. One thing is definitely clear. Immigration is no longer just an economic issue here. Well, it has become one of the biggest political issues in the Western world now. Can you imagine stealing hundreds of millions of dollars that were meant to feed the hungry children and then disappearing? Not for weeks, not for months, but for 4 long years. Well, that's exactly what the US investigators allege happened in one of America's biggest pandemic fraud cases. The FBI has finally arrested an alleged key suspect in Somalia in connection with the massive Feeding Our Future fraud investigation. According to the US prosecutors, more than $250 million in federal child nutrition funds were fraudulently diverted during the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, the money it was originally meant to provide meals for children when schools were closed because of the pandemic. But instead, investigators claim that fake meal sites were created, false documents were submitted, and millions of taxpayers' dollars all disappeared. In fact, for years, American investigators tracked financial records, bank transfers, and international movements before finally locating the alleged fraud suspect in Somalia. The whole arrest highlights how financial crime today they are no longer limited to borders here. Money can move across countries in seconds, but investigators are also becoming increasingly skilled at following the digital trail here. In the meantime, American officials say that the investigation is still continuing and more arrests could follow. This particular case, it also raises a larger question here. How did such a massive fraud continue for such a long time without being detected? Here, many experts believe that emergency spending during the pandemic happened so quickly that oversight became weaker, creating opportunity for the organized fraud. Well, it's kind of a reminder that during every global crisis, there is always people who are willing to exploit those in need. And yes, while America is fighting financial fraud, another Western democracy is facing an entirely different debate. A debate over religion, a debate over identity, and a debate over immigration. Because thousands of kilometers away from America, one European country is asking a very controversial question. Should the Islamic call to prayer be banned or not?